and sinners, welcome to another Tuesday evening edition of the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Cale Henderson, and we're back at it again, folks. You know how it is. Every Tuesday evening, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, we talk about IE Vegas, or all things Vegas sports here on IE Sports Radio. It's a shortened show. I'm very sorry. I actually just got back from a work meeting, a work trip. Been a bit of a crazy day. About 14 hours in today. I don't know. Kind of crazy. Close to. Yep. Been a long day, but I'm ready to talk about some Vegas sports. We're going to talk about the UNLV women's basketball team, who's absolutely been killing it. I mean, UNLV women's team, I don't think they've lost a game in a couple months. And they don't seem to be slowing down whatsoever. At all. And at this rate, they control their destiny. They've won 16 straight. We'll talk about that a bit more. Touch base on the Golden Knights because they're just streamlining again. Unfortunately, they had an injury with Mark Stone. We'll talk about that a little bit. The Raiders, we got to talk about the Raiders. They're on a collision course, man. Especially after the recent interview with Dave Ziegler and the Bussin' with the Boys crew. I don't have a warm fuzzy, man, about what's going on this season and what's going to happen. We are being fed the P word, which is patience. And for a franchise that hasn't really done anything or amounted to anything, with a really extremely loyal fan base that spends a lot of money to support a team that's mediocre, the word patience is not a really good thing to say. And I don't think Dave Ziegler and Josh McDaniels understand that. Yes, they're not completely guilty for the crap that went down for 20 years. I get that. They're only guilty of one season that looks subpar and horrible. But we'll get into that more in depth. And then we're going to talk about the Derek Carr sweepstakes. Because it's real, folks. It's real when we get back here on the Sin City Sports Show presented by IE Sports Radio. And welcome back, folks. Welcome back from the intro. You guys love that rock song, right? I mean, I think it gets everybody hyped, as well as our welcome back song when we come back from break. I love that one as well. Feels like we're always bumping here on IE Vegas for the last 8 years, and that actually gives me a chance to talk about our platform, IE Sports Radio itself. For the last 8 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. All the while, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and with your help, we're ready to take the next step. When you go to our website, iesportsradio.com, you'll see our Patreon link with 5 different tiers. The first one starting at just $5 a month. This donation gets you shout-outs to all 32 of our shows. Higher tiers include IE Sports Radio merchandise, access to our podcasting university, and even a chance to be featured on a segment of our flagship show, The Defining Moment. Thank you all very much for continuing to make IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports. Taryn, welcome to chat, man. We love you, man. You're one of the best teammates out there. For sure. Says, good evening, Cale. Have an awesome show. Taryn, you're always forgiven because I miss a show or two of yours due to work and football. And I would be guilty about it, but I'm out in my community. But I'll say this, man. You're probably one of the best teammates. You and Adams are easily the best teammates here on IE Sports Radio, so thank you. And my bad, I tried to I let Larry know. I thought I clicked on the chat where you guys are there. So, yeah, I was running a little bit late today. Was out in a small town trying to sell, my company's fiber to that town. It was a success. Hopefully we'll be making more money off of that, so that's great. And then I had to rush back here because it was about a 45-minute drive. UNLV women's hoop is killing it. Absolutely. They're on a 16-game win streak. And when you look at majority of the games, it wasn't even close. UNLV women's is absolutely killing it. And they're honestly controlling their destiny right now. There's a good possibility that they are in the tournament. I don't know why they wouldn't be in the tournament. It may not be the highest seed possible, but there's no reason they couldn't be in the tournament. And right now, I'm very confident. I'm like 85% sure they'd win the Mountain West Conference. I mean, right here, right now, if there's a tournament in place. So that will be happening soon enough. But yeah, really excited about the UNLV women's. They've been absolutely killing it. There's 3 games left. They will finish up with Utah State, San Diego State, and Nevada. 2 of the 3 are home games, and yet they control their destiny. They went out. There's almost a guaranteed bid to the tournament. I don't know how you avoid that. I'm still shocked that they're only ranked 24. They're 11-2. They're on a 16-game win streak, and they're only at, they're literally only ranked 24th. You would figure they'd be in close to the teens or the top 10, but it just kind of goes to show the power of the ACC, the SEC. You guys get it. The Big 12 have. I mean, it's crazy. Taryn Rodriguez said yesterday I had Las Vegas Ramblers coach Miguel Monterola. Did I say that? Monterola? Did I say that right? As a guest on Set Point, and did the interview at an airport in Las Vegas. Miguel told me that the Ramblers signed one of the top free agents to their roster. So, do you have the name of the free agent? And that's awesome. I know this volleyball team is a defending champ. And it's also awesome that you were able to get him on the show. Did you drive down to Las Vegas to do that interview, Terrence? This is what I'm saying, man. This guy's a beast. I think he lives in LA or SoCal, and he's driving. It's only a few hours, but still. That's awesome. I love that, Taryn. Thank you. It's great information. Felix Chapman. Woo! We're trying to repeat, huh? For those who don't know, Las Vegas Ramblers were the 2022 NVA champions, National Volleyball Association champions. So one of 2 championship teams in Vegas last year, as well as the Lady Rebels. The Aces, the Las Vegas Aces, who are also champions. And, they mopped the floor of the WNBA. So it's nice. We had 2 champions last year in what I believe is going to be the fastest growing sports market in America. And I find it hard pressed to find anybody who's willing to, argue with that, because it's just getting killer, man. Soon enough, they'll have an MLB baseball team. Stuff is jumping in Vegas, and I don't know how anybody could say anything less. UNLV women's, UNLV ranked for the first time in 29 years. South Carolina is still number 1. So AP News, this is 1 week ago. This is awesome. So the Lady Rebels are absolutely killing it, and there's no reason in my mind they shouldn't be a tournament team. I get it. There's some bigger teams out there, but they're just destroying their competition. They scored 100 points in one of their games this year. We're talking about women's basketball. We're talking about college basketball. It's hard to score 80 points in one game, let alone 100. That's nuts. I get it was kind of against the powder puff, but guess what? Still 100 points. You still put up 100 points. That's nuts. And that doesn't happen very often in college basketball. Got to give the ladies props. They killed it. Absolutely killed it. We're going to go to a quick break. I want to play some drops. When we get back, we're going to dive into the Golden Knights. We're going to go straight into the Raiders, and we're going to talk about that Derek Carr sweepstake to close the show, because it's heating up, man. There's been 3 visits total, and it's heating up, and it should be interesting to see how things go, because it just goes to show the mixed reviews of this guy, right? And then we're going to talk about, for sure, that interview with Dave Ziegler on Bussin' with the Boys, and the lackluster comments we got from Dave Ziegler, because he sounds like a politician. I've said this before. I don't hate Dave Ziegler. I actually like him. I think I understand what he's trying to do with the team. Just some things I don't agree with at this point. We'll discuss that when we get back here on the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all this sports.
Damn! Be the team! Set, hey!
What's going on, football fans? This is me, your boy Larry B, inviting you to join myself, Colin Reynolds, Mike Pat, and John Felipe for one of the most electrifying football shows you have ever heard. 3 and Out, right here at IE Sports Radio. Recap of the week before, a preview of what's to come, and of course, 3 hardcore head-to-head primetime face-offs each week. You don't want to miss it.
What's happening, sports fans? Are you a fan of Southern California sports? Are you looking for a show hotter than a hot summer day in California? Then look no further than the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, where I talk about all things Southern California sports. That's right, all sports teams from Southern California. From the hard-hitting tackles of the NFL, to the killer crossovers and big three-pointers of the NBA and WNBA, to the grand slams of the MLB, to the bone-chilling goals of the NHL, and to the booming kicks of the MLS, the SoCal Supreme Sports Show has it all for you. Oh, and let us not forget about the college sports as well. So join me, Taryn Rodriguez, every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
College football, and do you want to hear a college football show dedicated to all that is college football, including junior college in the CCCAA and in the NJCAA, the NAIA, and the NCAA, including Division III, Division II, Division I AA in the FCS, and Division I Single A in the FBS. Well then, look no further. Join myself, Larry B., and my colleagues, Mr. H-Town Blake Henley, and Mr. Christian Espinoza, each week during the college football season for the latest in college football on 3 and Out College Edition, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Sports fans, do you like teams that are tough, cities that are tougher, and fan bases that are passionate about their teams? How about teams that are historic and stadiums that are iconic? Then you belong in Chicago, and you need to check out Chi-Town Weekly. Join me, Adam Kernan, every week as we keep up with all things Chicago sports. Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs, White Sox. We'll cover them all, plus more. The Windy City is always buzzing, and we'll keep you up on all the big games and major stories. So tune in to Chi-Town Weekly every week right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Everybody, this is Taryn Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunder Spikes? Then I have the show for you, Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's good, fight fans? It's your boy, Marcus Los Great, here to give you what you want, here to give you what you need. Yeah, man. Yeah. I'm coming to you live, straight from your mama's basement with a crispy, awesome white tea. We are coming to you live every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Welcome back, sinners, ladies, and sinners, to IE Vegas, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Cale Henderson. We're back at it again. You guys know how we do it. Every Tuesday evening, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I understand I was a tad late this evening, but don't hold that against me. We're still here. We're talking about Vegas sports. We're about to kick into the Golden Knights. So glad Adam Karnick could join us. Taryn Rodriguez is always a great teammate. Get at us on our socials, by the way. Our Twitter, at SinCity_IESR, at Cale_Henderson's my personal. You guys can speak with us at any time about Vegas sports, anything, honestly. We're always willing to, we're an open book. Overly honest, blunt, forced trauma when it comes to the transparency, and that's kind of how we roll here, man. We've never really shied away from that. Adam, so glad you could tune in. We're going to talk about the Justin Fields to the Raiders trade here very soon. Just kidding, but it's possible. Especially... there are more and more rumors that come out saying that there's a possibility the Bears are in love with Bryce Love. I don't know. It's possible. And if you can get a haul for it and restart, it's possible. Adam, you may not like it. I'm just being real with you, man. It's very possible. Golden Knights. Golden Knights are absolutely killing it. They're back where they should be, on top of the Pacific Division. You guys heard it here first. Oh, yeah. They're on top of the Pacific Division right now. I have a 2-1 lead over the Blackhawks, which is not surprising because the Blackhawks are basically a poverty team compared. I'm just kidding. Just because Adam's in here. The Blackhawks are not quite as good of a team as the Golden Knights, but it is what it is, man. It's like, I don't know. The Golden Knights are just they're getting healthy, with the exception of Mark Stone. That is a bummer, by the way. Losing Mark Stone to injury. I understand that from what I saw, the Golden Knights actually gained, was it $9.5 million in cap space because of this injury. It seems as though Mark Stone will be out for an extended period of time. So that stinks because he's a big part of the team. But overall, this is still a really good hockey team. They're getting hot at the right time. Before the break, the All-Star break, they were in trouble. Before the All-Star break, Golden Knights kind of slipped to third. The Kraken were really on a surge, and you just didn't know what was going to happen. I had said this, and you guys had heard this if you were listening to the show. I said I think the Golden Knights really come back after the All-Star break, especially if they can stay healthy, and we'll see a different team. We'll see a different outcome. I still believe that the Golden Knights will end up being first in the Pacific Division. We'll have a home ice. I don't think they'll be number one in the West at this point. It's possible because they're currently tied in points with the Dallas Stars, and they played a game fewer. But that seems to be neck and neck, and who knows, man? Who knows what'll happen? The Jets are still a really good team. The Avalanche are fighting back. I think they're getting healthy at a good time. So what that tells you is the Western Conference is pretty nasty. Still not as good as the Bruins in the Eastern Conference, for God's sake. Good Lord, man. I mean, when you look at the Eastern Conference, um, third place in the Metro would be first place in the Pacific of the West. Like, that's crazy. Third place in the Atlantic would be first place in the Pacific. It's just the Eastern Conference is just, man, they're loaded. They're top loaded for sure. Um, Hurricanes and Bruins are definitely the best in class in their divisions. The Bruins are just unreal this year. I don't understand it, man. They won four straight. 6-3-1 in the last 10. 43-8-5. Correct me if I'm wrong, Adam, but it's possible. Are the Bruins on pace for like the best record in NHL history at this point? It's nuts. Because I want to say that was the Lightning a couple years back or a few years back. Now it seems to be the Bruins. The Bruins are just absolutely killing it this year. It's unbelievable how well they're playing. Adam Karnick says, "Oh no, Blackhawks are terrible this year. Vegas should win by multiple goals tonight." I mean, it is what it is. I think the Golden Knights are benefiting from a really good stretch of games. They do have the Flames next. That's never an easy game by any means. I know the Flames aren't as good as they normally are. But yeah, especially last year where they were basically a President's Cup trophy team. Flames won't be easy by any means. The only easy game I can see really that's left on the Golden Knights is every Anaheim Ducks game, which is sad to say because they used to absolutely dominate the Pacific Division, and it's unfortunate it's not like that anymore. There were days where Connor McDavid, although he was a supremely talented guy, would still get the absolute crap kicked out of him by Ryan Kessler, Ryan Getzlaf, and all the boys in the Ducks, man. Corey Perry, I mean, they throttled the Pacific Division for almost a decade. And now we're looking at this, man. This show of a mess. That's all credit to Bob Murray, by the way. You got to give that. While he gets credit for that decade of really good hockey play, he also is getting credit for all this crap hockey play we've seen the last 5 years. Yeah, all on Bob Murray and his unwillingness to evolve. So yeah, Golden Knights right now have a 2-1 lead. Third period, 13:53 left. It's live. We're going to give you updates as we go. I do believe I am confident that they win, but it is what it is. Terry Rodriguez said, bringing back the old days. Dude, the Ducks used to be, I mean, I don't think they're a team anybody ever wanted to play, especially the Bruce Boudreau days, where they were just a very physical, heavy on the puck. Corey Perry was that guy who just kind of set point in front of a goalie. I mean, he'd screen goalies like it was nobody's business. His hand-eye coordination was nuts. I mean, the guy had more deflections off of his stick than I mean, it was crazy how good they were back then. The captain, Ryan Kessler, was amazing. Ricard Raquel was on the team back then. He was a young gun that was just starting to, come alive. Dude, they were an unreal team. This was before Ben Gibson, and Gibson's just a beast. I don't know, man. I don't know what happened to the Ducks, but Bob Murray is someone you can point a finger at. He went top heavy, made some really questionable trades for old guys. Basically gave them no move clauses, which he shouldn't have done. It was just crazy how the Ducks kind of fell down, and in the time that they were falling down, that's when the Golden Knights were an expansion team, and man, they shot straight to the top, and they haven't really looked back since. With the exception of last year, the Golden Knights have dominated the Pacific Division the last 5 years. Let's be real. And if it wasn't for injuries last year, the Golden Knights would probably still won the division last year. So it's kind of crazy, especially considering the Oilers are an epic team, man. They're so good. And they're not out of it by any means. They're 2 games out. But they're loaded with Draisaitl and Connor McDavid. They're loaded, and the Golden Knights are still beating them. I don't know, man. I think the Golden Knights are just an excellent team. I really do. And it'll be interesting to see what happens. The Avalanche have really closed the gap. They had some injuries. They're third place in the Central now. That's a team you definitely don't want to see getting hot. The defending Stanley Cup champions. It's not a team I think anybody wants to see getting hot at the end of the year. But there's a possibility. I mean, they're not out of the realm of winning the West and getting home ice advantage. Anybody in the top 6 right now is not out of the realm. It's possible. And honestly, with where the Oilers are at right now, the Wild, all of those teams around the 67, 68 point range, 100% still have a chance. All they have to do is go on a run. And it happens every year, man. It happens every year. NHL teams will happen to go on a 10-game win streak, and they won't look back. Like, they'll just go into the play. And it's about when you go into the playoffs hot, by the way. When is that defense really kicking, right? When is that team taking out the trash on a consistent basis, night after night, in a speedy fashion, an effective fashion, an efficient fashion? That's when hockey gets at its best, because that's playoff hockey. Hockey that can take out the trash, protect their goalie, and really score well on transition. I that's the best formula for playoff hockey, and I'm hoping the Golden Knights get there, man. But it's really interesting. That Eastern Conference is just top loaded right now. Talking about the Raiders. Speaking of the Raiders, we'll transition over there. A little disappointed in the interview I was listening to with Dave Ziegler. Although I think of him as a person, he seems really cool. As a person, I trust him. As a GM, I don't know what to think. I kind of see his vision. I can tell he wants to build a foundation. If you guys get a chance, go to my Twitter page. I did post on the Sin City Sin City _IESR. I did post the latest mock draft. There's actually been two straight days. I personally don't believe the Raiders trade up. I don't think they trade for Aaron Rodgers. Will it happen? It's possible. I am not going to sit here and say it won't happen. I didn't think that Devontae Adams was going to be a Raider last year. I just thought it was out of the realm for a team that was trying to build on playoff success, right? So I'm not going to shy away from Dave Ziegler going after Aaron Rodgers. I think that'd be a great move. The problem is, I think it'd be a great move in the sense that you can't miss. You can't miss on draft picks. But you would upgrade your quarterback position a lot. You really would. And I think players would come to Las Vegas on a discount to play with a guy like Aaron Rodgers, who is an absolute legend. He's one of the most talented quarterbacks we've ever seen. Like top 5 most talented quarterbacks we've ever seen. Aaron Rodgers is 100% in that category, right? So if the Raiders trade for him, I'm all for it. I would never say no to that. Who would say no to Aaron Rodgers coming to the Raiders? What I'm worried about is you could be giving up multiple first-round picks for maybe 1 to 2 years of service. And that's a problem because this Raiders roster is absolute shit. I'll be real with you guys. It's horrible. It's awful. We are very top heavy in skill position players as far as like stardom. But after that, dude, we have no depth. Our offensive line was ranked 27th last year. That's horrible. Awful. Their quarterback was pressured in the top 10 last year because of how bad it was. Even with a running back that ran for 1,600 yards and like 2,000 all-purpose yards, his average point of contact was about half a yard, meaning they got no push. 1,600 yards of his all-purpose yards, so almost his entire total of rushing yards, were after contact. That says more to me about Josh Jacobs than it does about the team that was with him. So people can say whatever they want. This team is in trouble. The defense is absolutely awful. They were bottom 5 in almost every statistical category on defense with the exception of run defense. I think they were ranked like 18th. But everything else was horrible. The ones that matter, like points per game, yards per game, turnovers, sacks, the ones that matter. The Raiders were bottom 5 in all of those categories. And they've been like that for almost 20 years. Nobody's kidding anybody. Dave Ziegler has a daunting task. I don't blame them for the 20 years of ineptitude. I do blame them for one. Because the roster was constructed by Dave Ziegler. The team was coached by Josh McDaniels. Both guys who were brought in by Captain Bullcut, who is now, he looks like, I don't know, Conehead. We'll call him Mark Conehead Davis, right? Just another couple names probably to add to the list of casualties, because I'm going to say it like this. The Raider Nation is not patient. They shouldn't have to be patient. It's been 20 years of crap. Although Dave Ziegler and Josh McDaniels are not responsible for 20 years of crap, they're only responsible for one, right? They're still going to have pressure. Because this is the one thing I can tell you. And Vic Tafur, Bill Williamson, all very notable writers for the Raiders, cover the Raiders, say the same thing. If you're going to move on from Derek Carr, you better find an upgrade. It is your job as the GM to find an upgrade if you're going to move away from Derek Carr. And as of right now, after that interview with Bustin' the Boys, the P word was used. Patience. Not cool. Not something the Raiders should have, Raider Nation should have to be, is patient. But that's where we're at. That's what we're being asked to do. So I'm going to put it like this. Dave Ziegler needs to have a solution by the end of this year. I 100% am okay with them drafting a quarterback at 7, even if it's a bit of a reach, as long as he's sitting for year 1. If they draft Will Levis, I'm cool with that. Will Levis has got a cannon. Will Levis is a guy that if he had better blocking in Kentucky, he probably has a crazy year this year. Adam Karnick comes up. The current guys may not have broken your hearts, but they signed up for fan fury. 100%. And it's not completely their fault, but the reality is they came in, they sold us a bag of goods, right? They said, hey, we're here to win now. It doesn't look like it if you're out here preaching patience. You're backtracking, man. You're backpedaling faster than Jalen Ramsey, right? Covering Devontae Adams. It looks bad. Because right now, Dave Ziegler's saying, I don't necessarily know what our options are. Now, he could just be saying that because he doesn't want to tip his cap. Aaron Rodgers is probably the most notable. But if you guys are paying attention to Sin City Twitter, you guys know I've been saying Jimmy G or Mac Jones for months. And here's the harsh reality. I don't think the Raiders are willing to give up draft capital right now. And they shouldn't. They have too many holes. I respectfully don't think they should pay Josh Jacobs. Too many holes. And premium running back money is not worth it for this roster with all the holes they have and all the needs they have on defense. Frankly, the offensive line. New England's recipe for success for 20 years under Bill Belichick has been a top 10 offensive line and a stable of backs that are consistently drafted and cycled out year in, year out. They don't pay second contracts. We've been saying that here for over a year here in Sin City Sports. Although Josh Jacobs deserves a contract extension with the Raiders, it doesn't make much business sense in today's NFL. So there's a hole there. I think very much so Zeus. I think Zamir White could easily take over that position. I think that they should probably look to re-sign Amir Abdullah as a third down back because he was excellent. The Brandon Bolden experiment needs to stop. I would like to see them use their 7th rounder from last year because I'm going to say it like this, guys. Isaiah Pacheco with the Kansas City Chiefs was a 7th round pick. He had 1,200 yards rushing this year. If you have an excellent offensive line, a top 5 offensive line, you can draft a 7th round running back and get 1,200 yards. Bolster the offensive line. And I'll say this. Instead of having to spend the money on Jimmy G, maybe the Raiders draft their guy at 7 and let Stidham start for most of the year. I would gut out the whole year. But this coaching staff seems as though they might be on the hot seat. But if Stidham plays anywhere near like he did against San Francisco, majority of the season, I mean, we're talking about a different scenario, man. I just don't see it happening. I don't. So what I'm looking at, and this is what I'm telling people, don't be surprised if Jimmy G is your starter in 2023. Don't be surprised if the Raiders maybe go after Mac Jones. And then don't be surprised if Aaron Rodgers is your starter. But more than likely, if I'm Dave Ziegler, I'm not spending 2 first-round picks on Aaron Rodgers. Because that's what it's going to cost for maybe 3 years of work. Adam Karnick said, Richardson too much of a reach at 7? No, I don't think so. As long as he's not starting day 1, right? Give him a year, man. This is what people don't talk about with the Kansas City Chiefs. They built an entire championship roster around Alex Smith, and they let Patrick Mahomes sit behind Alex Smith for a year. Learn the offense. If Josh McDaniels is revered like Andy Reid is as a great offensive mind, give Josh McDaniels a year to train that kid how to run this offense, whether it's scout team or not. Let him do his thing for a year behind Jarrett Stidham. Jarrett Stidham knows he's not going to start over Richardson in the future, but give him a year. If we're going to be asked to be patient, there better be a reason for it. I would be perfectly fine with Will Levis. I think Richardson's probably a better prospect as far as potential. If we're going to talk about ceiling, I think the ceiling and potential is much higher for Richardson. But don't get me wrong, Levis has a cannon, dude. He can spin it. He's got rare arm talent. And I think he suffered from a really bad offensive line. I mean, think about it. Both of their starting tackles the year before were drafted. One of them went to Kansas City. Kennard. Or was it Kennard Dennard or something like that? He went to Kansas City, and he had some playing time this year. So Will Levis was sitting ducks. I mean, they had highlights all over the place of him getting bull rushed half a second after the play was snapped because offensive lines were blowing assignments left and right. Will Levis has a rare arm talent. But I'm with you, Adam. If you're going based on tools and potential, I'm taking Richardson at 7, and I'm letting him sit behind Stidham for a year. Raiders fans may not want to hear that, but that might be the harsh reality, dude. At this point, the Raiders are looking at $40-some million in cap space since the Derek Carr cut, right? They have the ability, because they have almost no contracts on the books in 2024, they can move main roster player salaries out to 2024, because right now I think they have $124 million in cap space in 2024. They could move large amounts to the next year, have $80 million to spend next offseason, and you create up to $70-some million to spend this year on defense and the offensive line, and build around Jarrett Stidham. Build a playoff contending team. Let Richardson sit behind Stidham for a full season and off season to learn the offense, the ins and outs of this very difficult offense. And then see what happens. Turn him loose the year after. And then keep Stidham as a backup. Because you could do that on the cheap, man. You need to win with a rookie contract. That's what we found out. I'm not going to shy away from that. So it is what it is. I think Richardson at 7 is great. I think Will Levis is at 7 is great. If you guys look at my mock draft, I was very detailed. You know, I'm not reaching. So I'm not going to lie to you. The last 2 mock drafts I did, C.J. Stroud was available. There's no way in hell that's going to happen. So I'm not gonna even entertain that at 7. But I'm gonna be real with you guys. Like, see here. Let's see here. I had Will Levis going at 7 today. I'm sorry. It wasn't Will Levis. I apologize. I took the best player available as Jalen Carter. Took Jalen Carter today. Let's see here. Yep. Took Jalen Carter. Round 2, I went with Osiris Torrance. Big, massive, mauling offensive guard, which Raiders sorely need in round 2. And with Keanu Bitton in round 3, he's a big defensive lineman. Ronnie Hickman, round 4. We need safety help. I don't care what anybody says. The old guy they got back there now isn't going to be able to do it forever. And pairing him with, I don't know why I'm blanking now, but pairing him with the young safety we have, number 25, who's going into his second year in the system, should be great. Aiden O'Connell I picked in round 5. So he's a quarterback out of Purdue. He looks like somebody who could easily run this system. He's very accurate. He's very quick release. Something that is built for a Josh McDaniels system. What I thought was really weird last year is the quick game just wasn't as existent as what you've seen in those past years. It's part of what I mean. I think Josh McDaniels was kind of throwing the year in a sense, because there was a lot of long developing plays last year that just wasn't the norm for a New England offense or the Josh McDaniels offense, where Brady'd have the ball out in 2 seconds. Derek was asked to hold the ball quite a bit with the routes that were called last year. And maybe that's a new approach that Josh McDaniels is trying. I don't agree with it. I think you go back to what made you successful in New England. Death by 1,000 cuts, as Trent Dilfer would always say, and set up the long game after that. But Aiden O'Connell will be perfect. He's 6'3". He's like 225 pounds. He's someone who obviously would sit behind somebody. I think he'd be fine. Truly. And then maybe you just gear up for the quarterback next year. But I did this with the thought process that we could see Jimmy G or Jarrett Stidham back to give them a year to see what happens. Drafted another guard from North Carolina State. That was an A. Tyler Lacey, very athletic defensive end out of Oklahoma State. This one's going to be a head scratcher. Some fans aren't going to like this. I don't really care. Muhammad Ibrahim out of Minnesota was responsible for 20 touchdowns last year through the air and on the ground. He's a monster. He's the perfect fit for this type of offense, especially behind that big offensive line. Again, you drafted 2 running backs last year. You could bring Amir back, draft this dude, and you have a sick committee that you can distribute the ball to. It doesn't have to just be Josh Jacobs. And again, I don't see him being back. It's nothing against him. He deserves his payday. I just don't see this staff paying him. I drafted Cameron Latu out of Alabama, big athletic tight end with plus receiver capabilities. We're going to have to replace Darren Waller sooner or later. The guy can't stay healthy for 16 games, let alone 9, i.e. last year. So we need a replacement for him. Foster Moreau just really isn't the answer. I'm pretty positive Foster Moreau was 5 of Derek Carr's interceptions off of his hands last year. Dude just couldn't catch the ball, and it hit him in the chest or in the hands. That's just being real. I don't think Foster Moreau's ready. He's a better blocking tight end than a receiving tight end. DJ Dale, big defensive lineman out of Alabama. And then linebacker, Servosier Dennis out of Pitt. Big linebacker. So as you guys can see, I'm trying to build the fronts on both sides of the ball. We have the skill position talent. I'm trying to build the fronts. And then draft a quarterback that could have potential to do what Brock Purdy did, because I think Aiden O'Connell is just as good as Brock Purdy was at Iowa State. Purdue is smart, and honestly, the head coach, Jeff Brom, and Purdue ran a complex offense, and it was very creative. I think Aiden O'Connell in the 5th round would be an absolute bargain for Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler. Not saying he needs to start. I'm not saying that at all. But he does give you an option to develop. But I'm with you, Adam. I think if Anderson's available at 7, I'm taking him. 100%. And I agree, there's no way Anderson's there. I just don't see it. Right? I don't think that CJ Stroud will be there, and I definitely don't think Bryce Love, because personally, Adam, you may not want to hear this, I think Bryce Love will be a Bear. I would pick CJ Stroud if I was the Bears, but I think Bryce Love will be a Bear. And I think Justin Fields will be on another team. There's so many teams in the top 10 this year that need a quarterback. The Bears have an absolute luxury in front of them. It wasn't like last year where there was a shortage of teams that needed quarterbacks, right? They all needed defensive players, pass rush, offensive line. No, this year you have like 8 teams in the top 10 that need quarterbacks. And you have a young guy that it's obvious the GM isn't 100% sold on. There's a possibility they can start over. I think it'd be genius, and you'd get a ton of draft picks for him. I think you get whatever that top 10 pick is this year, a first round or maybe a third. Like, that's great. That'd be amazing return. But Bryce Young, I 100% believe that Bryce Young will be, could very well be a Bear. I would pick Stroud personally after what I saw against Georgia, just being real about the situation. We'll need to have a discussion about Young, Stroud, Levis versus Fields. No, Adam, it's not about, I think Fields is better than all of them right now. The reality is you have the ability to start over with a ceiling, high ceiling, lots of potential, okay? Brand new rookie contract. You don't have to turn around and pay a guy a massive contract in 2 years if he plays well, because you get to turn around and rebuild all over again with $115 million in cap space this year, plus all these draft picks, and then extra ones from this trade. The Bears are actually in a luxury position from a rebuild perspective. They're in the Detroit Lions position from a rebuild perspective, whereas they can choose what they want to do with Fields, and it's still going to be a win-win. They could pick him, they could keep him, and build around him and build a defense. They win. They could trade him, draft Bryce Love or CJ Stroud. I still think they win because they'll be able to build an epic roster with all that cap space and draft capital. Bears are in a win-win situation is what I'm trying to say. It's not giving you shade. It's being real. If I'm this GM, I would be tempted to trade Fields because you're going to get some value. Serious value, and maybe an additional top 10 pick. Look at what happened with the Jets and the Lions. They had multiple picks in the top 11 last year. And what happened? They were contenders for the playoffs immediately. Just being real. No discussions needed. Fields is good, is better than all of those guys right now. But it doesn't mean in 2 years those guys won't be better throwers of the football than Fields if they land in the right spot. Derek Carr sweepstakes is on, man. He's had 3 visits. We're going to talk about that because he's a former Raiders quarterback. It's big news. The Raiders got no compensation for the Derek Carr situation. And their quarterback situation's in limbo. We don't know what's happening. And our GM is on a really popular podcast preaching patience and admitting he's got a tall task. He's got to figure out who's going to play quarterback next year. So Derek Carr is a relevant topic for me. And I'm going to say it like this. I still believe Carolina, Saints, Jets, top 3 locations. I've been saying it for months. For a month now. You guys have heard it here first. Carolina feels like that team that really needs him. The Jets definitely need him. And the Saints 100% need him. Like, there's no way around it. The other team I was thinking about is the Bucks. But that would be the one I'd steer clear of. If you're Derek Carr and the Niners call, you take whatever they give you. Because that team is built to win now. Like, that's a guaranteed possibility of playing in the Super Bowl. It's weird to say that if you're Derek Carr. So those were my top 5. You guys have listened to the show for weeks. But right now, Carolina and the Jets. Carolina, Saints, Jets in that order for possibilities. I just think the Jets really like Derek Carr. I think a lot of things connect there, and there's a possibility that a bidding war takes place. And again, those idiots on my timeline that were telling me I'm not a real Raiders fan, I'm a Carr stan, all that BS, I'm going to be able to rub in their face that Derek Carr is likely going to receive more money in guaranteed dollars than what he was going to if a trade took place. And I can't wait. Titans, Taryn, I could see it. I just don't think they have the weapons that Derek Carr would like compared to the Carolina Panthers, Jets, and Saints. That's just my opinion. You have Derrick Henry. You have a young rookie that got injured last year. They got rid of A.J. Brown. If they kept A.J. Brown, I think that's a different story. I don't know. If I'm Derek Carr, I don't know if I want to go deal with that. They have a lot of holes in the Titans. A lot of holes. That's just my thoughts, though. I could be wrong. But the top 3 are 100% the 3 teams he's visited. Right? Well, he hasn't visited Carolina yet, but I know it's going to happen because Frank Reich and him, they like each other. They're religious guys. And honestly, Carolina is building a low-key, elite coaching staff over there, man. They really are. They have a really talented young defense. They have DJ Moore, Chuba Hubbard at the running back position. They have an offensive line that's been rebuilt and was really running the ball well last year towards the end of the season. I think Carolina is low-key a very good team. That's still the number 1 destination in my mind for Derek Carr. If he wants to win and win in a warm weather area, the next one will be the Saints. But the Jets are creeping into number 2. They just have so much to offer there, man. So many draft picks. They have talent everywhere. Defense is unreal. The only thing that I think keeps Derek Carr away from the Jets is the division. It's just stacked. If I'm Derek Carr, where would you rather play? For the Carolina Panthers and the New Orleans Saints in the NFC South, where you know you're guaranteed to win that division because you're the best quarterback in that division and would at least host a home game in the playoffs? Or do you go to the AFC East and have to grind for a divisional win in a home game? Just saying. I'll say it, guys. You guys know what it is. We're on every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time here. The Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio. Your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Cale Henderson. Thank you so much for tuning in. Get at us on our Twitter forums, at SinCity_IESR, at Cale_Henderson, where we speak to you guys at all times, anytime. We love it. We want it. And as always, folks, love, peace, and hair grease.